bitter. I'm not. I mean, if I wanted to be bitter, I'd be bitter about things at Crystal Palace. I'm not bitter about Jesse Lingard. It's about as troublesome to me as a cloudy day. You know, 2 + 3 to Gabby equals yellow. Now, maybe it reminds him of a bitter owner because people told him to get out of their offices because it wasn't about being bitter. It was about Gabby being in their office in the first place, wasting their time.
Gabby Agbonlahor does not agree with your comments. In fact, he hit back quite vociferously about them this morning. This is what he said.
Yeah, that quite annoyed me when I heard that yesterday, because I feel that Simon can be quite bitter. He reminds me of a bitter owner who you try and negotiate a contract with and they're like, get out, you're not having that. But you got to go with the times, Natalie and Ali. And Jesse Lingard, for me, has had an amazing career. You know, played for his country multiple times. Manchester United, his club that he loved and has been at since he was a kid. Done amazing on his loan at West Ham. You know, probably their best player when he joined them. Talk about, he's only remembered about his TikToks. Sounds a bit bitter to me. I feel like sometimes Simon can be a bit bitter about what sort of money these players are earning. You know, maybe they're richer than him and he can't handle that. You know, if he wants to do TikTok in his spare time, good for him.
Maybe they're richer than you and you can't handle that.
I mean, look, there's a good point in there to some extent. Gabby makes a good point. I mean, he probably doesn't realise he makes a good point because, you know, 2 + 3 to Gabby equals yellow. But the point is that there is a debate to be had about what footballers get paid and how good they are and how worthy they are. Now, maybe it reminds him of a bitter owner because people told him to get out of their offices because it wasn't about being bitter. It was about Gabby being in their office in the first place, wasting their time. But the point is that my argument is not about money in terms of my view on it. Listen, I've made plenty of money and I've lost plenty of money. I don't define people by the amount of money they have. I define people by their achievements. But if you want to sacrifice achievement for money, and you want to suggest someone having a strident view on it is bitter. I'm not bitter. I mean, if I wanted to be bitter, I'd be bitter about things at Crystal Palace. I'm not bitter about Jesse Lingard. It's about as troublesome to me as a cloudy day. I'm asked an opinion about what Jesse Lingard is doing. My takeaway and my remembrance of him, of course he's scored goals in FA Cup finals. Of course he's played for England. But when you have an opportunity to be far more successful and you've taken 3 years of your career and you've achieved very little with it, and a small amount of time you've gone to West Ham and played 16 games, and that sort of embodies the body of work that you've had for the last 3 years, I think it's a fair comment. To suggest that someone's bitter is based upon someone having a very strident view about it. I think players in this day and age are afforded far too many courtesies, are paid far too much money at times for mediocre fare, and I think there should be more voices calling it out, and I think the fans have a view as well. I think fans react to the fact that certain players don't do what they should do, get paid far more than they should be getting paid.
He's doing what fans want him to do, which is A, be a loyal servant to Manchester United and dedicate his career to Manchester United. That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to go to West Ham on loan, but he did it because he felt as if he had to prove himself. He came back and he thought he could fight for a place back in the Manchester United team. They wanted to get rid of him. He said, no, I want to play for Manchester United. That's what fans want.
I would suggest to you that he went to West Ham because there was no opportunity to get into Man United's team, and by playing in West Ham's first team, he gave himself an opportunity to play in the European Championships. So I suspect there's probably more of a motivation that was seated in that. The fact that he stayed at Manchester United and not really got anywhere near their first team should be a bigger concern. His loyalty, if that's what you want to call it, and I have no reason to say that it's not about loyalty, was then misguided because it hasn't given his career. We were talking about him. We weren't criticising his loyalty. We were talking about the direction of travel that his career has gone from 26 to 29. To some extent, this boy's career has stalled. Now, I don't care if it's stalled or it's flown out of the charts, but the subject matter was Jesse Lingard and where he's going. And there has been a situation, in my view, he's engineered a situation where the main bulk of his motivation is to find an opportunity that is economically greater as a result of being a free transfer. That has very little to do with bitter. And if that's the way Gabby wants to advance it, that's his gift, you know.
Gabby also sort of mentioned the TikTok thing, and you did sort of make a throwaway comment
because that's my takeaway. That's how I see Jesse Lingard in my mind's eye.
Is that? I mean, some of the social media stuff yesterday was like, you know, TikTok's really is sort of 2022's accusations that someone's being a bit over the top because they've changed their hairstyle. I mean, that's just what people do. Is that not?
I think it's a lack of substance. I want substance in our footballers. I want them to be of substantial content. And I look at it and I think to myself, I don't know why. I'm not a TikTok follower, but I've seen these ridiculous videos.
Have you not been on Jesse Lingard's TikToks?
No, I don't. I'm not on TikTok myself, but I've seen the videos pop up in social media on various different guises and found themselves in platforms that I am visible on, like Twitter and so on and so forth. So it's an observation, and it's my takeaway, and it's a takeaway that I'm allowed to have. And of course, Gabby, as ill-informed as he is sometimes, can have an alternate view, right? But the bottom line is, it's got nothing to do with bitterness or... I never begrudged anybody any money in my life. I love to see talent of all ages and all professions achieving fantastic things. There are many, many people that have been far more successful than me, and there are many, many people that have been far less successful than me. And I treat both of those imposters in the same way. It's just a simple fact. I want these players to appreciate the position that they're in, because most of them walk around like it's with the idea that it's impending doom, and the rest of them are not necessarily worthy of some of the returns that they get. And when you look at professions out there which are far more meaningful in football at times, and you see the reward, some of these footballers don't know they're born. And when we start talking about... But
Jesse Lingard doesn't fit into that category, does he?
I think he does.
Well,
I think he precisely fits into that category.
Well, do you think personally he's been through an incredibly tough time behind the scenes, where he ends up being a carer for his young brother, and ends up having to take a bit of time away from football in order to do that because of circumstances in a family life?
Well, I can't speak to that particular point. I can imagine that the financial landscape that you're on gives you a huge amount of facilitation to be able to provide solutions. I have a very difficult situation with my father, which involves ultimately caring being involved in the equation. I won't bring that into the equation in my professional life, and I don't think that should be an equation brought into the professional life of Jesse Lingard, because the one thing that can clear up people's abilities to be able to provide care...
But my point is, he's not out of touch with humanity. He's not living on a cloud.
There's no accusation of that. There is an accusation inside football, and having lived and breathed the football world for 10 years, it's an island. You know it, Sam. It's an island where people forget the reality of what happens in the real world and live in a little institutional environment where criticism isn't allowed, only praise. People are only allowed to go in one direction in terms of how much they should be getting paid. The main focus of football seems to be, in this day and age, about money, and I don't like it. I know the subject comes up with me quite a lot, but it's a subject which dominates conversations. I want it to be about innate talent, and I want people to be worth what they're paid and paid what they're worth. And the tragedy in football sometimes is that doesn't happen, and it's got nothing to do with bitterness. Having the balls to call things out has got nothing to do with bitterness. It's a silly binary observation from Gabby, and he probably doesn't know quite what he's thinking when he's saying it, because I don't know how many bitter owners he had. Maybe they were bitter because they had him under contract. Maybe that made them bitter.
Was it just Deadly Doug and Randy Lerner, I think?
To be fair, if anyone was going to have problems with people like with Doug Ellis, it would have been people like me, and I found Doug Ellis a real character that I enjoyed being around.
Listen, we want open debate on this programme. We certainly get it. We get criticism. We also get praise as well. This is...
but we only like praise because we're in football. Only praise for us, please.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.